这个故事如果你听起来不累，那么你的听力水平在生活中是完全够用的。要持续提升英文，记得点击订阅按钮。我们开始吧。
Everyone stared when the man appeared at the edge of the Newcastle port, dragging a large, heavy sack behind him. The sky was a dull gray, thick with smoke from the coal-fired chimneys that lined the riverbank. It was early morning, and the cold cut through the city like a sharp knife. Men carrying baskets of coal on their shoulders paused to look. Women hurrying to the market stopped and tilted their heads. Even the gulls hovering above the water seemed to stop mid-flight, curious about the newcomer. Newcastle had been built on coal for centuries. The city's streets, homes, and even its very life depended on it. Ships filled with black stones left every day, sailing to London, to Scotland, to Ireland. The smell of coal was everywhere, clinging to every coat, every pair of boots, every windowsill. The hills surrounding the city were scarred with mines. Rivers were lined with coal barges. The city breathed coal and ate coal. Yet here came this stranger, carrying yet more coal as if it were treasure. His steps were slow and deliberate. The sack on his back sagged with weight. He had traveled from miles away, perhaps from a village where coal was scarce and expensive, where families spent entire winters shivering by the fire because there was not enough to burn. To him, this sack represented safety, warmth, security. The market square was alive with voices, shouting for fish, bread, cloth, and timber. But when the sack hit the cobblestones with a thud, the sounds paused. The bag split open, spilling black lumps in every direction. People stared. Then a few men chuckled. Then women whispered. By the time the entire square realized what had happened, laughter rolled across the market, a mixture of amusement and disbelief. Coal, of all things, brought to a city overflowing with coal, was the ultimate joke. This is where the expression "to carry coals to Newcastle" began to take shape, rooted not in mockery but in history. By the 1500s, Newcastle was already known throughout England for its vast coal reserves. The city was wealthy in a way that many could only imagine, not because gold or silver lined its streets, but because the black stone beneath the ground fed the nation. English homes relied on coal for warmth more than wood, and as wood grew scarce, Newcastle's coal became indispensable. Letters from the 1600s show that the phrase slowly entered the English language. Merchants used it to poke fun at one another, suggesting that any effort to bring something to a place that already had plenty was both futile and slightly ridiculous. Authors dropped it into books as an inside joke for readers who understood trade, travel, and the strange rhythms of supply and demand. The phrase became shorthand for doing something unnecessary, like offering advice to someone who already knows what to do, or bringing gifts to someone who already owns more than they could ever use. Imagine a young apprentice in London, eager to teach a baker how to knead dough, only to discover that the baker had been perfecting the craft for decades. Or a well-meaning neighbor delivering sacks of flour to a mill that has just finished a harvest, The embarrassment is small but sharp, a quiet sting of futility, and it has been preserved in those 5 simple words, to carry coals to Newcastle. But the story is more than just humor. The man in the market, standing with his heavy sack, was not foolish. He came from a place where coal was valuable, where darkness in winter meant fear, where warmth was the difference between comfort and suffering. He was generous in his own eyes, bringing what he believed could help others. He did not know the town. He did not see the hills scarred with mines, the ships loaded to the brim, the black dust coating every surface. His effort was wasted in one sense, yet it is not hard to imagine the courage it took to carry that load, the hope he must have had that someone, somewhere, would find it useful. History is full of people carrying coals to Newcastle in different ways, metaphorically speaking. Teachers giving lectures to audiences who already know the subject. Managers offering solutions to teams already operating efficiently. Friends giving advice that is already common knowledge. Every generation repeats the cycle, and yet every effort carries a human desire to contribute, to act, to matter. There is a tenderness in that folly, a lesson in humility and in timing. Over the centuries, Newcastle itself transformed. The smoke lifted a little. The river began to shine again. Coal lost its dominance, replaced by oil, gas, and electricity. Yet the phrase survived, echoing in classrooms, in novels, in conversations where people warn one another, consider before you act, understand the world you enter, measure the usefulness of what you carry. It is not a phrase about failure, it is a phrase about wisdom and attention. The story of the man with the coal reminds us to examine our own bags, the things we carry in our lives. Are they skills, advice, love, energy, dreams? Are we bringing them to a place that needs them, or to a place that is already overflowing? Sometimes the world will not recognize our effort, not because it lacks value, but because timing and context matter. The right thing in the wrong place can be invisible, and the invisible does not diminish the worth of what we carry. In the end, the market laughed at the man with the coal, and he may have felt foolish for a moment, but he also walked away carrying experience, a story to tell, a lesson that transcends centuries. Every action, every gift, every idea has its place, and discovering that place is as important as the gift itself. To carry coals to Newcastle is a reminder of effort, intention, and the sometimes painful difference between generosity and usefulness. When you think about your own life, think about where you pour your energy, where you invest your skills, and where you share your wisdom. Not every place needs what you bring, but the right place will transform your contribution into something far greater than you could have imagined. That is the quiet power hidden inside the story, the history, and the phrase. The coal of Newcastle has long gone, but its lesson has endured, teaching patience, awareness, and the subtle art of knowing when and where your efforts will matter.
能以非母语者的身份专注学习到现在，这本身就是很棒的进步。真诚感谢你的观看。如果你觉得本期内容实用，点赞或留言让我知道你的想法，这对我持续创作非常重要。我们下期见。